the Las Vegas Valley Aquifer.
Find out how scientists are reducing the amount of methane cows emit.
On the 100-year scale, methane is 28 times as potent as CO2.
And a look at just how quickly blowing snow can reduce your visibility when behind the wheel.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. We begin today in California, where winter storm warnings remain in effect until tomorrow afternoon. Even more snow will fall on mountain communities that are growing desperate as they remain stranded and also trapped. In the mountain states of Los Angeles, Crestline residents resorted to writing right here this message in the snow. Food and supplies are low, and people are really just losing patience with supply trucks still unable to reach many towns. John Lorick has more.
People are getting desperate up here. It's a dire situation, and it continues to get worse.
Parts of the Golden State are blanketed under monster amounts of white snow after back-to-back winter storms blasted mountain towns in Southern California. Anita Hudson says she's been snowed in at her home in Crestline for more than a week.
So you can just see the immense amount of snow here that slid off that roof. Look at the size of this berm. This is 15, 17 feet high, maybe even higher.
She says some residents in the area are running low on food and other necessities.
We're still snowed in. We're having to snowshoe out of our road here to get groceries, to get supplies, and to check on our neighbors. There's a lot of elderly and disabled people in the area that need help as well, and we're doing what we can to check on them.
The National Weather Service reports the Sierra Nevada mountain range could get up to an additional 3 feet of snow through Tuesday. This after some areas have seen more than 30 inches of snowfall over a 24-hour period.
I understand that this storm dropped a lot of snow on us in a very quick time period, but they expected the residents to be prepared, and I think the residents should expect their leadership to be prepared as well.
And in the South, strong storms and tornadoes left a trail of destruction in their wake. On Friday, at least 13 people are dead after storms swept through portions of Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, and also in Tennessee. This was a scene in Middle Tennessee where cleanup is now underway. Over 7,000 customers are still without power as of this morning. 3 storm-related deaths were reported in that area as well. And in Kentucky, an extremely close call for a FedEx driver as he dropped off a package. Look at this, and look at that tree behind him. A doorbell camera captures the moment when winds kind of pushed over a very long tree right there, right where the driver had been standing. He was just there seconds ago. He said it was unsettling to see how close he came to death or getting seriously hurt. 125,000 customers are still without power in Kentucky this morning. While in Maine, the last few weeks have been cold and very snowy. This dash cam video you're about to see captures really rough weather here. It was posted this morning by the National Weather Service in Caribou. That's the northern part of Maine. It shows a worker driving home when all of a sudden visibility right there is reduced to zero. Blowing and drifting snow were real problems, and 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts. The worker says he turned around twice before finally making it home. Down in Portland, snow-covered sidewalks are also a problem. As Johnny McFree shows us, many people are simply walking in the streets.
The city has kept the streets clear, but we've noticed people walking on busy roads when the sidewalks are covered in snow.
Yesterday I was walking in the road, not on busy roads like this, but it's kind of to the point where you can't really walk on the sidewalk.
Public Works Director Mike Murray says they do not have enough resources. So they plow the school routes and leave the rest up to businesses and residents, which does not always work out. This winter there have been 285 reports of sidewalk snow removal violations. People hope things improve.
I think that's part of the whole point of the community in Portland too is, there are a lot of active people and they try to do a pretty good job of keeping things clear.
Despite it being snowy and icy and difficult in a lot of spots to maneuver these sidewalks, the Portland Police Department says you're not allowed to walk in the road, even if the sidewalk is covered, because it poses a big risk for both pedestrians and for drivers.
Southern Nevada has seen more than its share of snow this winter, and it's going to help the region's water supply, even though most of that water will now go into the ever-shrinking Lake Mead. As Steve Wolford explains, the water will end up underground, and that's a good thing.
It's been a white winter in southern Nevada. The local mountains covered in snow, but when it melts, where does that runoff go?
Goes to Lake Mead.
While a little of the runoff might find its way to Lake Mead, a vast majority will eventually settle right under our feet.
All of that snow ultimately means that it's going to run off when it melts. It's going to percolate down into the aquifer, and it's going to help recharge the Las Vegas Valley Aquifer. And that is important because that is 10% of our community's water supply.
Bronson Mack with the Southern Nevada Water Authority says you can think of it almost like an underground sponge that allows the runoff to be retained and move and accessed from wells. Today, the aquifer provides just 10% of our water, with the rest coming from Lake Mead, but not that long ago, groundwater was all we had. Mack says if the aquifer was still our only source of water, our population growth would have likely maxed out decades ago at less than a tenth of the 2.9 million people able to live here today.
Had we not been able to access Colorado River water, this community really would be about the size that it was in the 1960s. It was within the 1960s when we had overuse of our groundwater system.
Meteorological spring is here. Astronomical spring is on the way later this month, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods for cold weather yet. Even for parts of the country that have had a pretty mild winter, meteorologist Ryan Mirando explains.
Well, it has been an extremely mild winter here on the eastern third of the U.S. with our early blooming of the trees, a snow drought through the mid-Atlantic, and below average ice coverage over the Great Lakes. Winter doesn't look to be quite over yet, as temperatures midway through March likely to be below average. The darker that blue color, the higher the probability of temperatures falling below that average, and this could be linked to the sudden stratospheric warming event that we had a few weeks ago. Normally, the cold air is locked over the poles by the jet stream, but when we have the sudden stratospheric warming events, meaning really the area high in the atmosphere warms, that's sometimes linked to the weakening of the jet stream and allows the cold air to surge over the continental U.S. We have to keep an eye from the early bloom that's been happening. If temperatures fall below freezing for too long, that could cause some issues.
Western Montana mountains have seen a lot of snow. To find out how much, meteorologist Mitchell Combs and photographer Parker Christensen took a trip so they could see for themselves.
As we've been digging this pit, we've been able to see some of the layers starting to show up of recent snow events. Until you get to right about here, below there, we've really compacted that snow down, so you're not able to see the layers as well as you do from about here and above. As we continued to dig, we got deeper and deeper. And to give you a sense of scale, I'm 5'11", and this snow is taller than me, and we didn't even reach the bottom. So it's well over 6 feet in that depth. With all of this snow up here on Lolo Pass, how does that relate to our snowpack? Well, on average, the snowpack at the Snowtell site here at Lolo Pass is 24.3 inches. We're currently recording 19.2 inches, so about 79% of average, which relates relatively close to the snowpack of the Bitterroot region at 84%. This snow is going to be extremely important as we head into spring because as it begins to melt, this will become much of our water for the region heading on into the summer.
One small question has apparently plagued astronauts while they were on the moon. What time is it? The European Space Agency is hoping to answer that question by possibly giving the moon its own time zone. The agency says time is crucial when it comes to navigation. Space agencies agreed to look into the issue during a meeting held last year. And we love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, cows are contributing the weather, warming temperatures in a rather unique way. We'll explain what that is coming up. And last month, over 10 million trees in Austin, Texas were damaged in ice storms. We'll take a look at how the city plans to replant all of those that were lost.
A
few snow showers up towards northern Maine for the day on Monday, but we're also tracking an area of low pressure moving into Pennsylvania, New York, could even eclipse New York City with a few snow showers for tomorrow afternoon and evening. Otherwise, Tuesday is looking mainly dry as well. A couple snow showers up towards northern New England and lots of clouds as well. But in terms of high temperatures for the day on Monday, overall, really not too bad. We're talking temperatures in the 40s for most, near 50 in New York City.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the mid-Atlantic region. A warm front will move into the region, leading to a few showers to start. Then, heading into later in the day and into the night, there is the chance for some winter weather in northern parts of the region. Southern parts could be dealing with a few showers that will clear by Tuesday morning. Temperatures will range from the 40s through the 70s this afternoon, and then overnight, numbers will cool down.
I'm meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at that southeast forecast. Mainly dry across the southeast. We do have the chance for a few sea breeze showers right along the Florida peninsula. A few passing clouds for parts of the Mississippi River Valley and along the Gulf Coast. Then heading into Tuesday, a few more showers possible around the Gulf Coast area and once again for parts of Florida. Now, it's going to be a warm one for afternoon highs on Monday. Highs returning to the upper 70s near Atlanta and into the mid 80s for areas of Central Florida.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
It doesn't get as much attention as carbon dioxide, but methane is a huge player when it comes to climate change. In fact, Bill Gates has recently backed a company that is feeding the active ingredient of red seaweed to cows to reduce the methane they emit. Emily Gracie recently spoke to a methane expert about how all of this works.
The issue is that when you look at methane, it's also very potent in the near term. So when we look at the global warming impact on the 100-year scale, methane is 28 times as potent as CO2. But on the 20-year scale, it's about 85 times as potent. And so that means in terms of near-term climate futures, which we're thinking about for 2030, 2040, and 2050, methane becomes a very important thing to solve quite urgently.
Where is it coming from?
The biggest place that it's coming from is livestock. Number 2 is natural gas leaks. Number 3 is rice.
So it's being emitted from cows. And there was a study done in 2021 about this additive in seaweed when fed to cows can reduce methane coming out of them.
Yeah. So red seaweed was the compound that they use. And the additive is a chemical called bromoform. It looks like methane, except it has one. Methane is kind of like a T with a carbon and a hydrogen on each tip. Bromoform has bromine on one of the tips. And that means it goes to the place where the methane would come out of these microbes and it blocks it up. And so prevents them from completing the production of methane.
How do they measure what the methane emission here?
There's a couple of methods. One of them is you put the cow in a box. Like literally, the cow is in a box.
That's what I was picturing, so it's good to know that's what it was.
Yeah, that's there's a couple others, but that's like the gold standard.
Are we emitting methane too? Should we start taking these seaweed?
You do make a little bit of methane, but not nearly as much, right? So sometimes your biology has no oxygen in it, and you make methane, but it's not a big deal. I mean, if you're producing a lot of methane, you should go see a doctor.
And head over to YouTube if you want to hear Doc Brown talk about the other technologies being used to reduce methane in the atmosphere, and none of them include plutonium. Just search the National Weather Desk and hit the subscribe button while you are there. Well, more than 10 million trees were damaged in Austin during last month's ice storm. The Texas A&M Forest Service says during the weekend, volunteers offered their time from sawing trees to spreading mulch as the city continues its cleanup. Meteorologist Chicago Windler says there was something for everyone to do.
From sawing trees to spreading mulch, the citywide Austin Parks Foundation event had jobs for volunteers of all ages.
I like helping my family. It's a good place to help others.
A month ago, parks across the area looked very different.
We've seen ice storms in central Texas, but I didn't ever thought this would be this bad.
Disc golfer Don Welker showed me the damage.
This is one major thing that happened. The tree split like a banana.
If you love parks and you appreciate nature, it's really sad.
Troy Herman with the Waterloo Disc Golf Club said he had already applied for Davis Spring to be one of dozens of It's My Park Day sites.
It was serendipitous and good timing, a perfect storm, as you would say, that the ice storm happened, the park day was scheduled, and we had volunteers in the back end ready to act.
An act they did, from fellow disc golfers to Boy Scouts to neighbors and others in the community. Every single volunteer slot here was filled.
To make the park better for everyone, we just wanted to help the community because that's how we pay it back.
A rewarding experience that shows people plus parks can make all the difference.
It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. And that's what we're doing with parks like this. It received damage, but you know what? It's going to regrow in a new shape, in a new way, but it will regrow, and people will be here to enjoy it and support it.
In California, heavy winter storms have caused major problems, but in some areas, the snow has offered a very unique opportunity, seeing normally green California state parks covered in white snow. Mason Carroll has more on this rare sighting.
It is beautiful, but it does cause challenges. Our staff's been busy.
Whiskeytown National Recreation is blanketed in snow after being hit by multiple snowstorms. Park Ranger Scott Einberger says it's a sight to behold.
It's beautiful. It's especially unique to have 3 snowfalls in 5 days.
While the winter weather does look beautiful on the park, it does still cause problems, whether that be rock slides or even down trees. And the park says that they're still dealing with cleanup from the January winter storms.
The Crystal Creek Falls trailhead, we had a landslide there. Our maintenance crews are out there repairing the road. We hope to have that work done soon.
The park has removed 100 downed trees from these 3 storms alone. And with so much car fire burn scar area, Einberger says wind is the main issue.
The wind is the big one in the post-fire landscape. You know, we've removed over 20,000 hazard trees at this point, but those snags will continue to fall for years on roads and trails.
Now, they are excited to have visitors experience a snow-covered Whiskeytown, but they do ask the public to be careful on your next visit.
Despite all the winter weather, we're getting closer to the official start of spring, astronomical spring. But what exactly does that mean? And why do we even have seasons? Meteorologist Violet Scarborough explains, starting with the Earth's position near the sun.
January 1st, it's just above the start of winter, which is late December. As we go around the sun, we reach vernal equinox, which is the start of spring, summer solstice, and the autumn equinox. So let's explain what each of these means. First, starting with the official start of spring. It's usually around the date March 20th. And the reason why it's that date is because the center of the sun is pointed directly above the equator, which means all areas receive about 12 hours of daylight. And what I mean by areas includes the Arctic Circle, Tropic of Cancer, Equator, Tropic of Capricorn, and the Antarctic Circle, which are each of the lines positioned here on Earth. As we look ahead to the summer solstice, it's usually around the date June 20th. This is when the center of the sun is directly above the Tropic of Cancer. And we have longer days in the northern hemisphere, shorter days in the southern hemisphere. Arctic Circle gets a full 24 hours of daylight, Tropic of Cancer around 13.5 hours. The equator gets 12 hours of daylight, Tropic of Capricorn only about 10.5 hours. And the Antarctic Circle is completely in the dark with 0 hours. Looking ahead now to the winter solstice. This is usually late December, around the date December 21st. This is when the center of the sun is directly above the Tropic of Capricorn, with shorter days in the northern hemisphere, longer days in the southern hemisphere. And this is usually the southern hemisphere's summer. So notice the amount of daylight here. Arctic Circle, no daylight. Tropic of Cancer, 10.5 hours. Equator, 12 hours. Tropic of Capricorn, 13.5. And the Antarctic Circle, a full 24 hours of daylight.
And as we head to break, we take to the skies over Johnson Lake in Nebraska.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. We got some scattered light showers across the Great Lakes for the day today and some snow to the north, but warm 70s to the south. Now, the 70s are gone, though, tomorrow because we're going to be dealing with cooler weather moving its way back in. Got snow in the Dakotas, some rain down towards Kansas, and then as we head on into your day Wednesday, still staying chilly across most of the Midwest with still some light snow showers across the northern plains.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. Well below normal temperatures are stretching across a good portion of the West, all the way across Idaho into Montana as well. Into Wyoming, temperatures making it into the 20s for daytime highs. A cold trough of low pressure sits over the Pacific Northwest, continuing with mountain snow and lowland rain showers, but it is the Sierra Nevada getting hit hard with heavy mountain snow through the course of Monday. That's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Drought conditions in the West are improving. Snowpack is a factor, and that has a lot to do with the fact that snowpack can hold lots of water. But how do officials determine the amount of water in a snowpack? Meteorologist Theron Zahn explains from Seattle, Washington.
Ever heard of something called the SWE, or snow water equivalent? It's an equation that's used to factor how much water is in any given amount of snow. Snow can be very different when it comes to water content. For example, if you have 10 inches of snow with 10% water content and you melted that snow, that would be 1 inch of water. But other snowfalls could be much more dense and have a lot more water content. It's important to know just how much water is in the snow that has fallen. You'll know how much water you have to use later in the year when that snow finally melts. But again, it's also good to know when it comes to calculating avalanche danger as well.
And we'd love to connect with you. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk or scan the QR code on the bottom left corner of your screen. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll take a look at how cold temperatures could impact your budding trees. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Monday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.